Hi, and welcome to episode 13 of Ellie Asks. I'm Ellie Phillips of Ellie Phillips's Clarity Coaching. Today I'm joined by Natalie. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
I'm going to pass over to Natalie to introduce herself a little bit more and what she does. Over to you.
Thank you. I'm Natalie, as you said. So I am a body image coach. And by that, because sometimes people don't really know what I mean when I say that, I will work on building up people's body confidence and self-worth. And to give you a little bit about why I do that or who I am as a person, I got into that this year because it's something that over several years and probably since I could probably go back to about 15, 16. It's something, I'm 38 now. It's something I've always struggled with. And I pinned quite a lot of my worth on how I looked, and how I looked at other people. I was massively conscious of it. And it caused quite a lot of problems for me. It caused a lot of mental health problems, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, which I think a lot of people do. And it impacted a lot of other things. So I found that I wouldn't go for jobs because I was so conscious of myself. It affected my relationships, and it got to a point where it was, I suppose, kind of getting a bit out of control. And I spoke to quite a lot of people, got a lot of support around it, and I did a lot of courses, and kind of found my little process, my little way, and I worked through quite a lot of things that I struggle with. And I'm now at a place where I'm by no means perfect, because we all know perfection does not exist. But I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in me, and I no longer feel that, I'm pinned down. I don't negatively body focus anymore. And I don't really, as I talked about today, I don't really compare myself to other people anymore.
Yeah.
So what I've kind of done is set up my little program. I'd call it my body image reboot program. And it's 6 weeks. I kind of do it with people to help move them through the steps I took and give them that support, because I know for me it took years for me to make the changes, and I just think if someone's got that backup and someone who's kind of walked through it and had the experience, it kind of helps them to transition across it. And I think it's really important for women, especially today with all the social media, to kind of be able to just love themselves and be comfortable with themselves, really.
And
so that's a long-winded explanation.
Yeah, brilliant, Ace. Do you just work with women, or is it men and women, or primarily with women?
You know what? I kind of market it like I just work with women, but really, for me, if anyone approaches me, I'll work with them. I'm never going to say because I know men struggle as well, and they're probably not as represented a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So if any man came to me and said, "Look, I'm struggling," I would never turn around and say, "I only work with women in their 30s, so I'll move along." No, I would. It's just for me, because they're the people I would probably relate to, because I'm in my 30s. That's been my struggle. Yeah. That's kind of where I focus myself, but it's not. I'm quite happy to work with anybody, really, on it.
I think listening, there'll be plenty of listeners now that like, yeah, that was me in my teens, that was me in my 20s, and possibly still like that is me now, because everything you said about your story absolutely impacted on me. I was really quite unwell when I went to university. I wasn't great at nourishing my body. I wasn't good at that because I was so concerned about being a certain weight, being a certain size clothes, which is just crackers anyway, isn't it? Because you can go in one shop and you can be a size whatever, and then in another shop be 2 sizes bigger or smaller. So that's crazy, isn't it? So, but yeah, from what you've said, that has really resonated with me through my teens, through my 20s, even into my 30s, definitely. So I think there'll be people who are listening who are definitely still in that place of, yeah, I'm struggling with that body image and feeling okay about things, which takes us very brilliantly and very smoothly and swiftly onto today's question. So today's question is, who do you compare yourself to? And I'm wondering whether Natalie's going to answer this based on almost like the former Natalie or current Natalie. I'm just interested to, is this a sort of who I used to compare myself to? Maybe some of the listeners are thinking about who do I currently compare myself to? So yeah, who do you compare yourself to?
I'm going to do it both ways. I'm going to do it both ways. Because I think for me, comparisons is massive. And I think early on, I didn't even realize I was doing it. I think it becomes quite subconscious, our comparisons. And if someone had said to me, right, Natalie, at the end of today, who have you compared yourself to? I would probably think of like maybe one person, whereas I've probably actually done it with 10 people for lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like negative thinking. It's so ingrained that it's just, I'm not even consciously doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, the big things are who we're comparing ourselves to, what we're comparing, and why we're comparing ourselves, basically. Because when we do that, we get a certain outcome, don't we? So that'll give us feelings, thoughts, behaviors. So when I used to compare myself, so go back to, if I do old Natalie first, so even go back, maybe, say if I went back 6 years, something like that, I would always compare myself. So my who would be any female who had something that I wanted, or I thought, you know, God, look at her long legs, or look at her big boobs, or, you know, look at her flawless skin. And I would literally, it could be anybody. It could be anyone. So I would find something in more or less every female that I thought was better than how I looked, or something that I felt I needed. I mean, for years and years, I was really upset by the fact that I was 5'2", and it took me to about 25 to realise I wasn't going to get any taller. And I had to kind of let that go because my years of growth were over. Yeah,
just got to accept it. I'm not growing.
But I would get so upset by it, and you know, now it just seems crazy. And I said I'd always be comparing parts of my body, you know, physical attributes, and different things about myself, and kind of picking it. And it got to a point where, you know, when we're doing it, we kind of filter out everything else. So when I was looking at someone, I couldn't see anything. You know, that negative filter was switched on. So all I could see was all the things that I envied, I suppose.
Yeah.
That I envied.
That was on your radar. That's the only thing, you're like, almost like your body wish list was the only thing that you recognized on anyone else. You couldn't see that maybe, so one woman had, you know, she had long legs, but maybe her skin wasn't flawless, but you wouldn't necessarily have noticed that within that person. You would have only noticed the long legs, sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So say, I mean, a good example is if I got ready to go to an event or a wedding or wherever I'm going, and I'm, you know, I've got myself all dressed up, and I'm thinking, do you know what, actually, Nat, you're looking all right. You know, I'm feeling quite good. I'm in a good place. Yeah, I'm thinking, you've got this. I would literally, you know, a handful of things might happen. Very rarely was it I would go to do and continue to think I look amazing. I would either start scrolling down Facebook while I'm waiting for taxi and think, oh God, look how pretty she is. And then I'd look in the mirror and all of a sudden I didn't look the same. Or I would get to a party and I'd look around and I'd be like, wow, she looks amazing. Look how thin she looks in that dress. And then I'd look at myself and think, now you look fat. And I would literally just completely switch it, literally only because I compared myself to someone else.
Yeah. I'm wondering what was going on for that woman as well, that you're going, oh, look at her, she looks amazing in that dress. I'm wondering what internal dialogue is going on in her head as well at the same time. Because I'm wondering whether there were people in that room that were pointing at you or looking at you going, wow, oh my gosh, she looks amazing. And you're standing there thinking, oh, well, in isolation, when I was in my room, in the hotel room or in my bedroom before I came, yeah, I'm looking all right. I'm quite, feel good, feel better. And then you're in your isolation. It's not until, like you say, you have other people around you that you go, oh, maybe I'm not so good, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what impact did that have?
Do you know, it had quite a big impact. So I suppose in that moment, so the impact in the moment would be very much that I would instantly feel anxious. I would instantly feel, a lot of time if I was at a do, I would go and get far too many glasses of wine to try and make myself feel better. You know, it got to
anesthetize it a little bit.
Yeah, you know, and that became that at one point that became a really unhealthy habit. Where I would have to have a glass of wine before I went out. Otherwise, even if I was going out with my best friends, just to relax myself enough to switch my brain off a little bit. You know, so that was one thing. And I kind of wouldn't relax anywhere. I wouldn't connect with people. So I found the big things for me is I was present a lot of the time, and I'm at every party, but I'm not listening to a word anybody's saying. I'm not interacting, and I'm not kind of getting the benefit of that connection because I'm too busy dancing around in my head, self-focusing, I suppose, on where I am and what I'm doing. I remember, and it hit me. It's a couple of times where my partner now, we've been together 9 years, and when we first got together, I'd flip between being confident and being horrifically unconfident. It was a bit like bipolar of body confidence, I like to call it. And I remember him saying to me, I was quite anxious to go to a do, and I remember him saying, look, Natalie, I love you to pieces. I think you're amazing. But let me tell you something, when you walk in that room, you are not the be all and end all. Everyone's going to turn around and look at you and go, wow, Nat's here, check her out. He's going, he's like, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. Yeah. You're not a celebrity. You're not.
Gotta get pat.
And I'm like, maybe he's right. Yeah, of course. No one's going to turn around and instantly turn around and analyze Natalie. Yeah. But that's where you are, isn't it? When you're in that place, you think that everyone is looking at you and everyone is judging you.
Yeah, and I think I've had this conversation quite a lot with with my coaching clients who say, yes, but what would people think of me? And they think this, and I think this, and blah blah blah. And sometimes I almost there's an element of me going, how important are you in their lives? These people down the street, or these people on social media, or these people, and they go, oh. Yeah. Oh. Almost like the whole world does not revolve around you, which they are totally aware of, and wouldn't be so egocentric to go like a bit like your partner says, you're not a celebrity, you've not done you've not turned up to speak at an event and everyone's waiting to come to see you. And I mean, it almost sounds quite harsh, but to flip that perspective that they're not necessarily judging you, and then it's not negative either. They, like I said earlier on, you could have walked in and they went, oh, that dress is amazing, I love her hair, it's so glossy, blah blah, whatever it might be, but you don't even consider there's positive thoughts going around people's heads. I'm really interested in that. I thought that was because when you said about being present but not really being present, listening but not really, there's so many times I think I've gone out and I've worn a dress that I really like or an outfit that I really like, and I look in the mirror, yeah, but then I get there and I'm talking but I'm itching it up and itching it down, I'm this like this and all, and doing this with my hair and a bit fidgety and a bit not really present because I'm too concerned about too short, too long, is it right, is it not, is it a bit tight, is it, shouldn't have had that kebab last Sunday, whatever it was, so what, really it's not about that, but yeah, I thought that's really interesting because there's a lot of that. You feel all right, and then, but it's not until you get somewhere that you're thinking, oh yeah, do I feel comfortable? So
yeah, exactly. I think the more we do it, the worse we make ourselves feel, you know what I mean? So, every time we compare ourselves and every time we look at someone and think that about ourselves, because basically all we're doing is, beating ourselves up a little bit, aren't we?
And we're taking ourselves away from the present. Like you said, I was present, but I wasn't really present, and when you think about spending time with family and friends and enjoying time, when almost like you're focusing on completely the wrong things for your personal enjoyment. Me worrying about the length of my skirt or how tight it is around my waist is totally taken away from something I probably have looked forward to for a significant period of time, thinking, oh, I can't wait to go out with my friends, can't wait to and then I'm almost stealing the fun from myself. Nobody else is doing that for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it a quote they say? Was it? I can't remember who says it. Was it the comparisons is the thief of joy? Is it something like that?
Something like that,
isn't it? And you're right. I mean, and a big thing for me is, and I say that I'll talk about is our values. So kind of where we are and what's important to us and what we really want out of life. when we're comparing, we ruin it. And, you know, as you said, Elliot, I've been on family days out with my young children where I'm supposed to be creating memories. These are things that I'm going to look back at in years to come, reflect on. And do you know what? If you asked me what happened that day, I would think, oh, I remember now, and I was wearing this and I looked like that. And I would spend my time during that day out glancing at my reflection in the window, thinking, oh, God, you look crap today now. You know, why don't you get up and shower and wash your hair before you came? And I'm not thinking, my kids aren't looking at me and thinking, God, mummy looks crap today.
Yeah.
They're looking and think, why is mummy in such a bad mood today? Because I'm carrying this bad mood around because I'm so busy looking around and seeing what everyone else looks like that I'm not living the life I want to live. And that's one of the big things that comparisons gets in the way of. It just stops us. It beats us up and it stops us having that confidence in ourselves to kind of do anything.
I've seen that, like, I've seen it on social media. There's a picture of a mum, excuse me, a mum and a child, and they've both got, thought bubbles coming out. And the thought bubble from the mum is like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. I can't do this. I can't do that. And then just in the thought bubble of the child is like, she's my absolute world.
Yeah.
And, that's just was so profound for me. I'm thinking, from their point of view, what is it that they're seeing? They don't care whether your hair is greasy. They don't care whether and as you're thinking about those days out, I'd be thinking, oh, I can't have that ice cream, or I can't have that fish and chips, or I don't, that sort of depriving. And like my daughter said to me, she said, Mummy, you can have a dessert today because why don't you have a dessert today? Or Mummy doesn't really like dessert, she just has yogurt. And I was thinking, oh gosh, that's the kind of, she's seen me. But I am not, but that isn't about being me depriving myself necessarily. It's just the fact I'm not that bothered about cake and sweets. She have a real sweet tooth, but I'm not. I'm more about the savoury. I'm more about the pasties and the sausage rolls and that sort of thing. So, and crisps. So it's not that but it was just really interesting from the mouth of babes that she's really noticed that I don't have a pudding. And it could be of the fact that I would be depriving myself. But I mean, in my situation, it's not. But I think maybe in other situations, in other family units, or mummy doesn't have an ice cream when we go out on a day out, or mummy doesn't have sweets, or she doesn't have popcorn when we go to the cinema, all those sort of things. And I think even though maybe people really want to have them, but choose not to for for reasons that are going on in their head rather than what they actually want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How was go on, sorry.
I was gonna say, interesting when you were saying about children then is a big thing for me as well when I became a parent was to stop comparing, because a lot of the time if we're around other people we compare out loud. So if we're around people, I don't want to be walking down the street with my little girl and go, oh God, look how amazing she looks, or oh God, I wish that, or I wish that, or I say, or whether people are saying something positive or something negative against someone else in any kind of comparison, kids pick up on that, don't they? And the biggest thing I don't want is for either of my daughters to grow up doing it to themselves or against someone else, because it's such a big thing. And there's so much, especially as I said before, with girls and boys growing up now, such pressure to look certain ways and do certain things, and I definitely don't want to raise my children to encourage that.
They hear the little things, don't they? They hear the unsaid things as well, don't they? They're very astute. I mentioned in one of the previous podcasts around the fact that I'd started saying my eldest daughter was clumsy, and then she was like, I can't carry these eggs in because mummy, I'm clumsy. And I've done that to her. She's and so I'm just thinking, will that limit her? I won't go in for that race at sports day because I can't do the hurdles because I'm clumsy. I'll probably fall over them. Am I creating limiting beliefs for her by saying things? I don't say it anymore because I'm very aware of that. And just thinking about, and almost that the way, oh, aren't you beautiful? When with little girls, aren't you? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't say those things, but it's really almost like their worth is only based on what they look like, which is absolutely not the case, as and so many people would say that. But how many times have you said, oh, don't you look beautiful? Isn't that dress gorgeous? Or blah blah blah, and I can remember it was like thing that in Hollywood there was a big U-turn with regards to, oh, what dress are you wearing? And lots of famous actresses like, do you ask the men that? Why are you so interested in what I'm wearing? You know, it's not about that. I'm an actor, just like that man over there. I'm an actor, but you're not asking him what designer he's wearing. Why is it so focused on appearance? I'm really interested in new Natalie, if you like, and what that comparison thing now. So what sort of things do you say to yourself now? Or tell me a little bit more about that.
I've tried to switch it now to use comparisons, because I always think, I used to say, oh, don't compare, it's really bad. But now it's more of a, well, do compare, but only if you're using it for self-development rather than self-destruction.
Yeah.
So I will now compare myself more to people who inspire me or people who motivate me. So when we talked before about values, like what's important to me, what kind of person do I want to be, how do I want to show up for my kids, how do I want to show up as a person, and what job do I want, anything like that, then I'll think, right, let me find people who are like that, who are on the same journey as me, who are already there, and look at them more. So compare them. So what I'd be looking at is their positive attributes more. So the confidence, or how they've got there, or I say how they are as a person, how they're connecting with people, and use that as more of a goal setting activity, I suppose, and be like, right, do you know what? She's really confident. She comes across really well. I want to do that. I want to come across like that. So what is she doing differently to me?
Yeah.
And what do I need to maybe change or work on to get me to that place, rather than kind of saying, oh my God, I'll never be like that, and look at her and look at me and she's so much better than I am. Use it more, do you know what? She's done that because she's worked on this, she's worked on that, she puts time into this. If I do that, there's nothing to stop me doing the same. Yeah. And kind of and use it that way as well. And the flip side of that is that you feel more positive and motivated, don't you? I mean, I had a massive culling on social media probably about a year ago, and just took out, do you know what? If I looked at another person who had filtered themselves so it looked amazing, and I used to look at that and think, look at the state of her, look at her hanging around her trackers and she looks amazing. But she thinks about 5 filters on her phone. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you took them off, she'd look the same as me, sat on the settee. Yeah. Bloody hoodie with a bra off. And the thing is, and I had to just take them people off. The people who were kind of like, I mean, we all like to show up on social media as our best selves, don't we? Of course. I'm not going to post a picture on social media of a day out with my kids where I'm like dragging one by the arm and one's wet herself and it's all gone a bit chaotic. Although that'd probably be more
Please do. Yeah, I think I would love that. I'd be like, yes, it's not only me. It's not only me. It's happening too.
Exactly. And that's real life, isn't it? Well, I think, people probably, I had to have a bit of a culling. Anyone who was putting quotes and statements on that really were promoting the opposite of where I want to think, values. I had to take them off. I had to take the people who over-filtered off.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel authentic and genuine, does it?
Yeah. Exactly. And I didn't want to comment because the only comments I had were, I suppose, negative, to go against what they were doing. And that's not good.
To challenge that whole bit about only being about appearance.
Exactly. And the thing is, I thought, well, I don't want to do that because that's them and they might have really low confidence. So if I do that and I don't want to do that and seem like I'm attacking them and then they feel worse about themselves.
It's almost what's going on for that person. Why do they feel the need to have to do? Because actually they're probably coming from a place of comparison as well, and coming from a place of the years are creeping up on me. I'm going, all that sort of thing, and thinking, I don't look like I did in my 20s, and this filter makes me feel like I look a little bit like I did in my 20s. And and that's almost like I'm doing all right. So they need that mind set shift of going, your value isn't linked to just your physical appearance type of thing. Yeah.
That's it, definitely. And as you said before, going back to comparison, sometimes we do it to our old selves, don't we? Yeah. And I think especially when the new Natalie, the new revived Natalie, if I'm comparing back to my old self, I try and pick out the positive things that have changed, rather than kind of looking at, oh God, look at what your belly was like before you had kids or something, or remember that time when you weren't so stroppy sometimes, or whatever it might be, or my legs were never longer, so I can't compare it to that. But you know,
They
to
were
just have a
shorter
look and
though.
just,
They were
yeah, well,
shorter. So you
exactly.
just
They
gone,
were
they've
shorter.
grown from me being
Back when I
12.
back when I was 5, my legs were a lot longer than that,
Yeah.
just about an inch. But yeah, and it's a biggie, you know. So one of the big things, one of the big takeaways for me with comparisons is to just be around people who encourage you to compare yourself well, who support you in your changes, and kind of if you're looking at anything in life on Facebook and you're thinking, do you know what, that's making me feel bad.
Yeah.
And
Is this comparison a positive thing impact for me, or is it even having a negative? Almost having that awareness, like you say, you do it so subconsciously sometimes, almost bring it to the forefront and having that awareness, because like self-awareness is the first step on making any sort of change. So yeah, so looking at it and going, what impact is this positive, is this negative, sort of thing. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, because that's a big thing. If we don't put the effort into acknowledging we're doing it, then you can't change anything. You don't know what's happening, can you?
No. And for me, I think I've got 2 girls as well. It comes down to my girls and what can I do now that I didn't do, or didn't have, or what I wasn't aware of growing up. So what can I now do for my girls to ensure that, or not to ensure, because I can't ensure that, I'm sure, unfortunately, but to try and support them in seeing their worth from something different. So in my previous life as a teacher, there's a lady called Carol Dweck who did some research around sort of mindsets and fixed and flexible, mindsets, growth mindset. And basically she did a thing around, she tested 2 sets of groups of children. One group of children, they had to do some puzzles. They were quite tricky. And she said things like, well done, that's brilliant, you're so clever, congratulations, you've done that really well. And oh, you're such a whiz at this, you're so clever. Really just about the end result. And then another group of children where she said, I love how you've worked hard at how we've worked that out. You're really resilient. I can see that you struggled a little bit with that, but you persevered with it. You carried on. So it was more about not the end result, but the journey. And she gave both sets of children the option to do the hard puzzles or the easier puzzles, just as some like playtime. And the ones who had the you're so clever, what a clever clogs you are, wanted to do the easy ones, whereas the majority of the ones who were told how good they were at working things out and you're great at working out a challenge, really wanted to do the more tricky ones and challenge themselves. So that is really ingrained in my head about sort of when I big up my kids around things. I love that you've been really resilient with that. I could see that you struggled, but you didn't give up. More of those attributes around not the end result, which I think links to not the end result of the way you look, the end result of the out to the end thing. So just thinking it almost like a takeaway as well around how we speak to our children, but also how we speak to ourselves, but how we speak to our children around how they do things and behave.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a big one, and you say it is something that you work on. It's giving, I suppose, when we're giving compliments, isn't it? Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Giving the non-physical compliment, and it's getting a balance, isn't it? Because I don't want to never say my children look nice, because then they'll think that they don't, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's getting that balance, isn't it? Of, do you know what, you were really brave then. I'm really proud of you, and things like that, to just get them to realise that, do you know what? And I'm always saying to them, beauty, it's external and internal. You can look externally as beautiful as you think you can be, but if you're not a nice person, and if you're not true to what you do, then it's not going to get you anywhere.
It makes you look, you can be the most beautiful and classically handsome and beautiful person in the world, but if your internal is ugly, it makes you very ugly, and vice versa. And of course, like when we talk about beauty, it's like anything though, isn't it? It's like what is beautiful to one is not beautiful to another, and comparing ourselves based on what somebody somewhere creating an advert has decided is beautiful should not be the benchmark of what everyone thinks is beautiful, because
Yeah.
that's bull, isn't it? That's just
Well, exactly.
rubbish.
Yeah.
And
Again,
people know
beautiful
that.
choices. Yeah.
People know that, don't they? And that's the crazy thing. People know that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and absolutely, but still, people are still comparing themselves to the models and the people in the adverts and the people who are using all the filters and things like that. So we're coming towards the end of the episode now. Is this sort of a last sort of thing that you would want the listeners, if they were in that place where they absolutely in the place where they compare themselves either consciously or subconsciously? Probably if it's subconsciously, they won't know this at the time, but maybe after listening to this, they'll have some time to reflect and think about, how do I compare myself? If they are in the midst of it, in the depths of it, what advice, what steps would you suggest? What takeaway could they do?
I would, for me, I would, if you're doing it with people in like the face to face, or we're doing it round and about and we're doing it, is to kind of check in with yourself. And for me, I would have quite a few statements. I have quite a few little statements I have about myself that I believe are true, that are positive, that aren't body related, and I'll kind of say them to myself, and I'll literally just verbally remind myself that that person might be going through their own things, and you know what, I am me, and I am happy, and I am this, and I am that, and I'll have these little positive affirmations that I will say to myself. And if we're doing it on social media, I would literally scroll down, and if you find yourself comparing, you want to ask yourself, who am I comparing myself to? What am I comparing? Why am I doing it? And how do I feel? And if you feel crap, then unfollow that person, and unfollow doesn't have to be forever. Unfollow a few people, have a little look about, what do I want to be more like as a person, and connect with those people, because once you connect with those people and you surround yourself by people, you will feel more that way. We are who we hang around with, for me. And if we're around negative people, or also people who compare, if we hang around with our friends compare and our families compare, it's like diet chat, isn't it? It's just, it becomes the norm. So try and break your free from that, and challenge it. If you hear people comparing, challenge it and call them on it. And just say, well, that's not true about you, is it? And
and what impact is this having? And is this healthy in any way? Is this supporting you to move yourself forward? Like you said, you'd try and compare yourself, but from a personal growth point of view. So is this helping you in any way? If not, almost like, what's the point? Why are you spending this time on? Because it's not moving you forward in a positive way at all. Ace, thank you so much for.
You're more than welcome.
I've loved it. It's such a great topic to talk about, and it's, I think, very, very real for lots of people. And although maybe there'll be people listening on different points in the journey, and although I feel like I've moved on with regards to comparison, there are times that I think it's a road that I've walked for such a long time. The road, or the grass is trampled down, because I've walked that road for such a long time. Whereas a new road, the grass is a bit springy, and it springs back up, and it's often easier to go down that whole road of comparison and self-doubt and all that sort of thing. So it's really good to have that self-awareness again around the subject. If you want to know anything more about Natalie's business and how she can help, absolutely get in touch. I'll put all her social media links on my Facebook page, as well as in the details of the podcast. And so get on there and get followed, and she will absolutely help you. Thank you again. It's been Ace. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.